Hello and welcome to liferay4u.com. In our previous tutorial we have seen how we can configure Liferay from scratch and how we can start our development with portlets. So in this tutorial I'm going to tell you what are portlets, what is the life cycle of a portlet, uh, and what is the difference between portlets and servlets. So first of all, let's start what are portlets. Well, basically a portlet is a Java technology based web component which is managed and which is run by Portlet container, which then process the contents and then generate dynamic or static content, whichever we want to process from our portlet. So well, basically there are some criterias or the characteristics of portlets which are they are pluggable components. Well, basically pluggable means that you can add or remove a component from the website on runtime. So well, basically the correct word for that is hot deployable. And well, portlets are managed by portlet container, and these are basically responsible for our presentation layer only, and these are responsible to generate some stuff on the front end. So well, basically they generate fragment of markup. They generate HTML or XML parts, chunks of HTML or XML. So well, they are part of a portal page which contain multiple portlets. So a portlet is responsible to generate a chunk of HTML data, and then that data is combined with the portal page, and that it results into a complete page of the portal. So well, basically if you see the flow that is over here, well, there is a portal page which lands these four portlets. So these are portlets, and then portal server is in between those. Then portlet container is there, and then there are multiple instances, and then they are communicating with database, and then a result is flowing back. So the whole flow will be portal page is being requested by the user, then this portal server will communicate with the portlet container, and then that portlet container will communicate to that particular instant of the portlet that is being called, and then that portlet will communicate with the database, and then the result will flow back. So this can be an high level overview of the same. There is portal page, then a portlet request is being sent to the portal server, and then that server is communicating with the portlet container, and then lifecycle methods of the portlet instances are called, and then content from the portlet came back, and then content from all of the portlets are assembled, and then that is sent back to the user. So what is the portlet lifecycle? Well, basically there are three methods which are responsible for portlet lifecycle. Those are init, render, and destroy. uh, Basically init method is called whenever you are deploying a portlet. So whenever you are basically putting up the war file into the deploy folder, and then that is being deployed, then the init method will be called. After that, the render method is being called. Means every time your request is coming, that is being passed through render method, and that render method is calling a particular JSP, and then the JSP is being rendered over the portal page. And then when you undeploy that portlet, that is, you are removing it from the web apps folder, then the destroy method is being called. So there comes one more method, which is action method. Well, basically if you are performing some action, means for example you are submitting a form, then this action method is being generated, being called from your form, and then in action method we are performing actual business logic, and then we are passing it to the render method, and then that render method is calling the JSP, which is responsible for rendering out the business logic that we have performed in the action method. So this could be the high level overview of the same. So well, basically this init method is being called at the first, and then I'm sorry, and then this init initializes the portlet instance, and then there comes an action request which is passed through the portlet container, and then our process action method handles this request which is generated by an action URL. I'm going to tell you what are those action URLs also. So after this this render method is being called, it renders the and generates the portlet container, and that response is pulled up in the form of a JSP or some other content that you want to process, and then it is being called back, and then the destroy is called by the containers before the portlet instance is destroyed. Well, basically that means whenever you are removing the war file from the means whenever you are removing this portlet from the web apps folder. So this will be the complete flow of our portlet, how it is working out. So let's consider that on a particular page there is a portlet and a B portlet. Okay, so request is coming from a portlet A from the web portal page. Then we are calling the render request of that portlet only. So render request for the portlet is sent to the portlet container, and then the render method is called, and this render method is sending back the process. Okay, so in the meanwhile, render method of B portlet is also being invoked over here because it is landing on the same page only. So the same thing, A and B portal page content from the portlet A and B are being sent back. So in short, every time whenever a request is coming to the portlet, every time the render method will be called at any cost. If there is any action URL involved between the same, well, basically if you are submitting a form, then in that case action method will be called, and then the render method will be called of that. So for example, over here, request from portlet A for from web portal is coming, and then the request action and its type of action request, then the process action is being called, and then the again render method of the portlet A is being called. Also the render method of portlet B will be called because it lies on the same page only. So if a portal page contains two portlets, which is portlet A and portlet B, and you are calling an action method of portlet A, then in that case A's action method will be called, then A's render method will be called, also the portlet B's render method will be called. This is the life cycle, and this is how they perform it. So this is, well, basically this is the class hierarchy of portlet. So this is the portlet interface, which contains init, and this contains the portlet config object, and then the render method is there, process action method is there, and then the destroy method is there in the portlet interface. This portlet interface is being implemented by a generic portlet class. All of these implementation are being given by GSR 286, and this basically contains init method, do view, do edit, do help, get init parameter, serve resource, and process event. So, well, basically these are the functionalities that has been given by GSR 286. In the back end, these three methods, do view, do edit, do help, are basically calling back this render method only. So these three are basically the modes in which you can call a particular portlet. So this get init parameter returns out the parameters which are being saved in the portlet config, and then the serve resource is basically used for our Ajax calling purpose. This is basically meant for serving the resources only, which is given by GSR 286. Earlier in 168, this was there was no functionality of serving the resources. So this process event is basically a mechanism for performing IPC, that is inter-portlet communication between the two portlets. So that we will be covering later on. So there are some modes which are called as the portlet modes. So there are some modes which are GSR specific. Those are view, edit, and help. View mode is the default mode for a particular portlet, and this edit mode is basically for setting up the configuration. Help mode is providing some static content from the backend to help the user to work out on that particular portlet. These portlet modes are being specified by Liferay. So these are about, config, edit defaults, edit guest, preview, and print. So, well, basically these are built on the top of the GSR specifications, and then also there is a flexibility that you can create your own portlet modes also. So I'm gonna take these afterwards also. What are these Liferay specific portlet modes? So up till now we can consider that portlets and servlets are somewhat similar, and there are somewhat differences also between the same. So there are some similarities that they both are the web-based components which basically runs on the websites, and they both can be clubbed as together. Means, I mean, you can say that those both are a similar kind of thing. They both can serve static and dynamic content. So for example, they both can return out an HTML page also. Also they can return out a JSP which will be dynamically generated on the server side, and they both uses the client server model. There will be one client involved and one server involved. So client will be putting up the request to the server, and server will be sending back the response from over there. So for the deployment of both, WAR files are used, which is the common between these two. So, well, there are some differences also. That Servlet can render the complete page, whereas the Portlet cannot render the whole page. They are basically responsible for generating a fragment only. So, for example, there is a scenario that you want to generate a particular JSP using the Servlet. You can fetch it out using a URL, and then complete page will be rendered. But in case of portlets are land on a page of portal. Then portal page calls that particular portlet, and then that particular portlet is called from the portlet container. The portlet is responsible for generating only a fragment of HTML. So there are no body tag, there are no fragment, no frame set available. So you can't have HTML tag and body tag or header tag in the portlets itself. So these are completely forbidden over there. If you are putting up those, then the portal page will completely avoid those, and then they will be discarded, obviously. So well, basically they can generate only a fragment, and that is why they can't be able to render the complete page. So there is one more difference, which is Servlet can be directly accessed by URL, but Portlet cannot be accessed. So this is the difference that I have told you. A portlet can be landed on a multiple times, but Servlet can't. So on a particular portal page, there can be a scenario that a particular portlet you want to land 2 times on a single page, which will be working for, let's say there is a portlet A which will work for student information getting and showing also. So there will be 2 modes, which will be edit mode, and there will be view mode. View mode will be showing some stuff over there, and then in edit mode there will be shown some other stuff. So both you can club down and put up into the single portal page only. So this is what which is about Liferay portlets. So in coming tutorials, I'll be telling you how you can configure JRebel with Liferay, and how you can start the development without being using the ant build command again and again. So thanks a lot for watching. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.